We're live. Hello, people. 1 by my clock. Once again, I have laggy YouTube, but we have a very exciting person here. I'm so happy to introduce you. I already have, in some ways, I did say your screen name, your YouTube name, not your government name. And so tonight, I wanted to start by giving you guys an update. Monty's trying to get in my lap. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the chat during this story. And my guest will be telling her story, which is really interesting and exciting because we met very early on in my streaming career. And it was crazy. I didn't know who she was. She was a secret informant. And you guys won't believe who it is. Okay, so first of all, I have an update from last week's story because I guess there were questions in my comments, I think, about it. So I'm going to answer those questions. And let's see. I'm not going to put it up on the screen. There's no need to dox anyone here. I will just say that. Hang on a sec. All right. So Kat told the story about meeting the Scientologist on the ferry on her way to Canada and then getting waylaid. Remember, guys? So she got stopped at the border and kept in a room with her stuff searched through thoroughly because she was traveling with a Scientologist or for a reason unknown. My friend Lisa told me afterwards that it's her theory that that Scientology was following the ex-Scientologist, and that Scientology probably told someone at the border that they were drug mules or something, and that's why she got detained and had all of her things searched through. She had never been detained at the border before and crossed many times. So here are the answers to the questions. The first one I think was someone asked if the Scientologist that Kat talked about was in the Sea Org. The answer is no. She was on staff. She said that she was getting hardcore regged to be in the Sea Org, but could not be in the Sea Org. She was disqualified because she'd done LSD in the past. So she's grateful now that she did acid before she ever met Scientology, because she said they were really hardcore regging for the Sea Org. Okay. Another question was if the vitamin guy she helped start his business was Janice Gilliam Grady's dad, and it was. So the Scientologist, the ex-Scientologist that Kat met on the ferry, said that he's a pretty well-known Scientologist, and it was Janice Gilliam Grady's dad, which is so crazy. Kat says, I'm sure ex-Scientologists would know her. And then the last thing is she does not want to come on YouTube and tell her story. She said it was such a nightmare, such a bummer. She just wants to put it in the past and leave it in the past. So that's our update from Kat's riveting story about being waylaid at the Canadian border because she was traveling with the Scientologist. Okay, so today we have someone new, a whole new story. And so we're going to do these every Wednesday. We do these every Wednesday, and they're just for fun. Remember, hi, West. Hi, Shiro. How you doing? Good to see you. Good evening. Are you gelling? Thanks for coming, guys. It's so nice, guys. It's so nice to see you. I know I'm very excited about this. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce you to someone that you all may know as the co-creator of the of SPTV Space. And her name is, we all know her as XENEWS. So here she is. Welcome, XENEWS. Yay! So you guys, XENEWS' real name is Allie. So she'll be known from now on as Allie. This is not the first time she's used her government name, but it won't be the last. So Allie and I don't even know how to start this description of how we met, because I'm not sure I exactly remember. Because one thing is for sure, I met you right after I started streaming. And I mean, it was like right after. And what you did was you sent me an email, right? Basically saying you had had this inside relationship with people at an org, at a Scientology org, and that you had had in-depth conversations with staffers and Sea Org members. I think. And yeah. And when I found out, okay, remember shortly before, like at the end of February, between the middle and the end of February, when we were being told by the neighbors of the Lakeview, the Chicago org's old location, that they were moving and they were going ideal, as they say. There was a lot of inside Scientology talk about it, and they were talking to neighbors, and the neighbors were telling us that they were moving and opening up an ideal org. But everyone kept saying, like the bigger channels that had way more viewers than I did were saying, we don't know when Chicago's opening. They kept saying it and saying it. And I was like, I know they're opening I thought at first February 24th, because that had some historical significance. And then I get news from Allie, and she says, go ahead, Allie.
Yeah. So I went down to the org here. We have an org in Kansas City. It's in downtown Kansas City. And it's an ideal org. It opened in 2019. And I hadn't really known much about it. And then when I started watching this whole community, I kind of got, interested, and I was like, do we have one? And sure enough, we did. So I went down there and I walked in. I had a friend with me. We had gone downtown for coffee. There's a coffee shop just down the street. And I was like, hey, let's go into the Scientology org. And she was like, oh gosh, no. And I was like, no, come on, we'll just go in. We'll just ask a couple of questions. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. But I dragged her. And we met the receptionist. Her name's Niana. We met a staff member. Her name was Lynn. We got a tour. The building's incredible. Now, people who aren't Scientologists, they can only go on the main level, and then there's like a mezzanine on that you can see. It's like a loft, and that's the only part that, for the most part, you can see. And then they also have a conference room downstairs, which is a vault, because the building used to be a bank, and it's this giant vault. And my friend and I actually got a photo in front of the vault because we thought it was funny.
Cool. Cool.
So anyway, I started talking to the staff there. I decided to go back the next time I was downtown. Because I go to that coffee shop quite a bit. So I'd go to that coffee shop, and then I'd go to the org. And I think I visited 5 times total. And I was just having conversations with several of them, but specifically one Sea Org member. And one of the times that I went in, it was either the second or third time I went in, the guy behind the receptionist desk, which he's not the receptionist, that's Niana, but this guy's name was Michael. They had these, a whole bunch of little things sitting on the reception desk for you to take one. And I said, can I take one of these? And he was like, oh yeah, have at it. So I picked it up and I took it and I put it in my purse. And when I got home, I pulled down, I looked at it, and it's a Chicago Ideal Org is opening. And I had just started following your channel, like within like the last week. Like I remember watching your first stream when you're running out to trashy. Like I remember that.
Yeah.
So I had like just started following your channel, and so either that night or the next day you posted, we know this is happening, but we don't know when. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I know when. So I took a photo of the thing and I emailed it to you, and I was like, this was on the reception desk at the Kansas City org.
Yep.
So,
and that night, I think that night, or maybe a day or two after, Aaron Smith Levin asked me to go on his channel. And he's like, he texted me and he's like, hey there. He's like, we're old friends, And I had been watching him for years, which is what makes it really weird. Like watching someone for years from a distance and then actually talking to them is like, it's different. So he was like, hey there, do you want to collaborate with me tonight? And I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, we want to get as many people out there. If you say, you know, they're opening in Chicago, we want to get as many people out there as we can. So I'm like, oh, okay. So we went on, and he was like, the first thing he said was, we still don't know for sure when they're going to open. And I had your ticket. And I was like, yes, we do. Let me correct you on that. When he was introducing me, he's like, we still don't know for sure. And so I was like, yeah, actually we do. I got this from someone who's not disclosing her identity yet. And that was you.
Yeah, part of the reason
that's how we knew
Yeah, and part of the reason I didn't really want to disclose who I was yet is I was just having such good conversations with one of the Sea Org members, a girl in the Sea Org. Her name is Desiree. We were just having really good conversations, and I didn't want to like mess that up. You know, I didn't want it to come out like, oh, she's, you know, anti-Scientology, because the moment that they found out that I, you know, was against Scientology, I wouldn't be invited back. I wouldn't be welcome back in the org, which ended up happening. I was escorted. I was not very politely escorted out. But yeah, I wanted to get that information out, but I did not want to be like, oh, and this is who I am, and this is how I have it.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. Right. I'm so glad. Okay, so so after this became one of my insiders. Allie became my insider. So she was telling me all this inside information that no one else had. And it helped me tremendously in getting, finding out everything that needed to be found out about the so-called grand opening in Chicago, right? But I mean, the most important thing was, number one, we had a ticket because you mailed it to me. And number two, we could sneak somebody into the audience. And number two, we knew exactly when, where, and what was happening. When, you know, so we knew for sure finally. And that was huge. So I'm just going to say really quick, Dodge just texted. Dodge has just commented that his, I'm so glad for you, Dodge. His court date went well today. So he's good. He's all good. So yeah, I just thought I'm very grateful, very, very relieved about that. So anyway, you were so generous with being an undercover spy, and you were so good at it because you kept going back and asking questions and coming back to me with information. And you were truly undercover. You got to really know these people, and you kept going back.
And I tried to be as genuine as possible. Like, I wasn't trying to be deceitful or, you know, like, you know, whatnot. I mean, I told them my name was Allie. I, you know, told them I was a web developer. Like, you know, I wasn't being like super deceitful. I told them my background, which I grew up in a really strict Christian, you know, church group. And it just like, and that way I was able to have like real conversations, specifically with Desiree. And I just honestly, my heart breaks for them. I mean, I met, I don't know, I see Diana, Lynn, Desiree, Claire, Katie, Michael, Matt. So I met 7 total and had conversations, short with a couple of them, but with 7 of them. And I know for a fact that 5 of them were Sea Org. Michael and Lynn, I think, are staff, but I'm not positive about that. But yeah, I think Kansas City is mostly run by Sea Org members, and I kind of don't think most of them are, you know, doing well in like their Sea Org career, because I flat out asked Desiree, Diana, and Claire where they were on the bridge, and all 3 of them have not made it to clear, and all 3 of them have been in the Sea Org. Diana, since she was 13, she was born and raised. In fact, she was in the cadet org with Catherine Spallino, the one who wrote Bad Cadet. So they were in the
Right.
cadet org together. So Niana's been in since she was
Wow.
13. Desiree's been in since her early 20s. She found Scientology when she was 18. And so she signed her billion-year contract when she was in her early 20s. And then Claire, I wasn't sure exactly when she got in, but it had been over a decade that she'd been in the Sea Org. And none of them have even started their bridge. I mean, like I asked them if they were, on their grades or anything like that, and none. I mean, Desiree said she wants to co-audit up the bridge eventually, and Niana says she wants to become a crammer eventually, but they haven't started that process, and they're all in there at least mid to late 30s.
Well, okay, so let me ask you a question, and then I'm going to let you take over and tell whatever part of your story you want to tell. So she's got a really amazing story from beginning to end. You won't believe it. But anyway, she's going to tell whatever part of it she can tonight, because we go short on these things, about a half hour total. So, and I. So, anyway, I just want to ask you one question, and that is, so you mentioned that you did not go there intending to be deceitful. So
No.
let me just ask you, what did you go there intending to do?
Honestly, I wanted to get their opinion of like what they give people who aren't in Scientology, like what they say about Scientology, what their their belief system is about it, like what their I don't know, their story is. I wanted to know like their background, and I got a lot of it. I got Desiree's pretty much entire childhood history for the most part, which is she is your typical, I say typical, that's not the right word. She is the type of person that was targeted. She had a very traumatic childhood, and she really needed a strong community of people who were going to have her back. And she found that in Scientology. And because they had her back, she dedicated her entire life and multiple lives over to the cause. And she is very sweet individual, dedicated to the cause of Scientology, dedicated to whatever it is that she believes. But we had a lot of philosophical or even like Scientology tech conversations. So like I read Fundamentals of Thought, and we talked about that book. I read a whole bunch of different policy letters, and I'd bring them up. So yeah, we had a lot of, I mean, hours worth of, which completely surprised me. That was the part that really surprised me the most, was that she was willing to have that conversation with me. There were multiple times when she tried to sell me a book. There were multiple times when she told me to try to, to get on course. And I just kind of steer away from that. I did finally, and I said this to her. I mean, I said, okay, I'll give you one stat. And I did take the personality test, the Oxford Capacity Analysis. So I did take that. I took the online version with a VPN and all that jazz. And I may have cheated though. There's an answer key online. So how
do you cheat?
You just answer it how L. Ron Hubbard wants you to answer the questions to make you look good. And the answers are bizarre to some of the questions. The way that he would want you to answer them, they're strange. So I did do that. We went over my test, which, because it was perfect, it meant I was hiding something, which I guess technically I was. I cheated. Right. But yeah, I mean, I pushed the envelope at the end. I mean, that was the reason, I was eventually asked to leave. Is I did start saying things, about the abuses, about the forced abortions, about the Jane Does. I brought them up. The Danny Masterson trial. I mean, I brought up a lot of the stuff that I've learned, from this community and from the former Scientologists. And yeah, so eventually I was escorted to the door and asked never to come back.
Do you want to just say briefly what that experience was, or do you want to hold that for another time? It's totally up to you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was bizarre. So I'd been in that org at least 5 times, all of them very friendly, polite, welcoming. We'll have a conversation with you. And the last time before I was escorted out, the last time I was there, I pushed the envelope really hard with Claire. And I told her that I thought she was a wonderful person and that she truly was dedicated to helping mankind, and that if she knew the organization that she was aligned with, if she knew what they were actually doing behind the scenes, she would be appalled. She'd be appalled because she's not that person.
Mm-hmm.
And that the organization itself is monstrous. That the people dedicated inside of it aren't. The Sea Org members aren't, but the organization itself is. And she said, well, we're done with this conversation. I can't be having this conversation with you. So I started to leave, and on my way out the door, I stopped by reception. And at reception was a ticket to the L. Ron Hubbard celebration birthday party. And I asked Niana, can I have one of these? And she was like, oh yeah, definitely. And I said, then I can come to the celebration. And she goes, yeah, you can. And I was like, okay. And as I'm walking out, Claire comes up to her, and she doesn't say anything to her, but she's kind of standing there and gives her some kind of a look. And I'm not sure what kind of a look it is.
Right.
And I looked at Claire and I go, it's okay that I come, right? And she still doesn't say anything. And Niana goes, it's only you. Like, that ticket's only for you, nobody else. And I was like, yeah, no, I won't bring anyone else. It'll just be me. I'll come by myself. So I leave. Week goes by. I go back, day of the L. Ron Hubbard birthday celebration. Streamers are outside. So
Yes.
Mike, Scientology, or Auditing Scientology, and Gypsy Mimi is there also with her bodyguard. And I have not met her.
I was watching live.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had not met her yet, so she didn't know who I was. Mike knew of me. He didn't know what I looked like, but he and I had multiple correspondences. He knew who I was. So I go in, and I'm starting to, go past reception, and Niana stops me, and she goes, I am very sorry. I did not know when I gave you that ticket that we're sold out and there's no more seating. And I went, well, that's okay. I don't mind standing in the back. I can do standing room only. And she goes, no, you don't understand. I wasn't supposed to give you that ticket because it's only for Scientologists and you're not a Scientologist. And I was like, oh, well, I'm here. Can I, since I'm here, can I just go ahead and go on in? I mean, I made the trek all the way here. And she goes, no, you can't go in. And she starts to get more and more like, no. And I say, well, Niana, like, can I talk to somebody else? Can I talk to, I'm thinking I upset Claire. Can I talk to Claire? or can I talk to Desiree? You know, I haven't talked to Desiree for several weeks. Can I talk to her? Can I talk to somebody else, you know, besides you? And she was like, no, you're not invited anymore. And I said, oh, so now I'm uninvited. And she was like, yes, you're not invited anymore. And I said, well, I'd like to talk to somebody else. And there were all these different tables in the reception area that had chairs around them. So I actually planted myself in one of those chairs. And I said, you can go get somebody else and I'll wait here. Somebody is higher up than you. And she said, okay. And she motions for another Sea Org member to come over to watch me. And so he comes over and stands with me, and I talk at him for a little bit, you know, oh, don't you think this is weird? You know, here I was invited, you know, whatnot. Oh, right before she leaves, because she motions him over and makes sure he comes over. Right before she leaves, I say, don't you think this is strange? And I pull the ticket out of my purse and I say, I have a ticket. I was invited. And Niana lunges at me, grabs the ticket with both hands and yanks it out of my hand and puts it somewhere like, you know, under the desk. And, and I go, Niana, what the flip? And like, it shocked me. Like, I've never seen her act that way before, because she's always so sweet and welcoming, and like she lunged at me when I pulled that out. So anyway, so she leaves and she ends up getting who we now refer to as OSA Matt. So he seems to be part of their security at the org, and he comes down and he says, you are not welcome here. You need to leave. And I said, but I was given a ticket and I was invited. And he said, you were not given a ticket. You stole a ticket. No, I did not. I said, Niana,
that's what they told me. That's exactly what they told me. Yeah.
And I said, no, Niana gave me the ticket. You can ask her. She handed the ticket to me. In fact, not only did she hand it to me, she wrote the time down on the ticket for me. So
nice.
Although I couldn't prove that now because I didn't have it anymore. And he said, no, you're not invited. You're not welcome here. You're antagonistic to us and you need to leave. And I said, antagonistic? I'm not antagonizing anyone. I just want to participate in the event. And he said, no, you're antagonizing everybody in this building. I was like, oh, okay. So I said, I legitimately don't understand why I can't just quietly stay in the back and watch the event. And he said, you are no longer welcome. I am going to call the police if you continue to stay here. And I said, really?
Wow.
You're going to trespass me? And he said, yes, you need to leave. So I got up and he walked me to the door. And I said, you know, this really does not make your organization look very good. And I'm probably just going to go outside and tell these people out there that are streaming what just happened. And he goes, I don't care. And he walks me to the door and I come out. You can actually see me on the stream, and I go, I've been kicked out. So yeah. My adrenaline was so high though after that.
I could tell. I could tell. The look when you left, you were kind of like your head was kind of down, like you weren't really wanting to be filmed, and you walked really fast away from the streamers, and you looked very upset.
Yeah. I mean, part of it really was that I had built some rapport with them and had some conversations, and I messed that up.
Right.
You know, I'd messed that up by pushing too far. And so I was kicking myself a little bit for that, you know, having pushed those conversations to a place where they did feel like I was antagonistic. But at the same time, it's like, if not now, when? You know, I've had conversations now with you for weeks, and I haven't brought up any of this. It was time. It just,
Yeah.
I wish I had done it after the event and not before.
Right.
But
Right.
you know, it is what it is. So
I think by then they were kind of onto us, you know?
yeah, yeah. And a couple of, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but a couple of things that Matt said to me while we were walking to the door made me think that after Claire reported me, he
Mhm.
went back and watched through like footage or something of me previously being in the org, like wondering like what else has she done? Where has she been? What did she, what information did she get? So he made a couple of comments that made me think, oh, I think they went back and looked at the footage
Yeah.
of the previous visits I'd had.
I'm
And
quite sure.
and for the
Yeah.
most part, I mean, I really didn't do much. I mean, I talked to a few of them. I think I took some photos of a couple of things, and I mean, they're just I mean, I took those tickets, but I mean, they were offered.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Someday I'll tell the story about what we were gonna do with the tickets, and then ultimately what ended up happening is pretty much what you guys saw streamed at the opening here in Chicago. But is the Kansas City org an ideal org or no?
Yes, it is an ideal org.
Okay,
It is
so that's why
it
it's
is
so nice.
it is incredible on the inside. They spent
Mhm.
money. Yeah, it's beautiful. They
Yeah.
have all the displays that all the ideal orgs have. And I've watched a few of them. I've spent some time. I went up to their they have a little tiny theater in the mezzanine part of the org, and I watched one of the videos up there. So,
Mhm.
just I mean, I did a couple of things just to kind of make them, feel like I was trying to learn. And I mean, I was trying to learn. It wasn't, I wasn't doing it just to be like, oh, I think, like I was really trying to learn how they viewed things, what, how they present themselves. So,
It's pretty remarkable, isn't it? How they go from that crazy wooden smile to
mhm.
that vicious, like
Oh, the look on, yeah. I mean, I think that was
the
why
the look on their face when they realize you're an enemy, because that's how they are. You're either my enemy. You're either it's like there's nothing in between enemy and underling. You're like either my apostate or you're my enemy. You're my follower or my enemy. That's it. There's nothing in between. There's nothing
yeah,
truly between human beings as human beings. And I guess that's one thing that makes it a
yeah,
cult, right?
yeah.
So do you regret
The
doing any of
way
that?
No, I don't regret any of it. I I
Mhm.
I feel like Desiree and I would have been friends had she not been in a cult. Like, she and I got on really well. We
Yeah.
had great conversations. Niana
Mhm.
had, oh my goodness, her body language, the way she spoke, everything said, "I was raised in a cult." I mean, it would like that woodenness, that it just she had this.
Mhm.
She even I remember the first day that I met her, when we like, my friend and I came in, she said something that struck me, and she called it the outside world, and she said, yeah, she said, because I asked her how long she'd been working for the church, and she said, "Well, I've been working for the church since I was 13." And I went, the look on my face was like, "Wait, what?" And, even though I previously heard about that, hearing it straight from them is, you still kind of have that shock
Mhm.
value of
Right.
13. And she goes, "Yeah, it was a long time ago, and the outside world rules don't really allow for that, so you have to be 16 now." So, I mean, like, she kind of, but she said the outside world, like, laws requires
Mhm.
that you have to be 16 now to join the Sea Org. So,
And just on the off chance that somebody may know, maybe looking for family or something, did you get any last names?
I didn't get
It was
any
all
last
first
names.
names. Okay, name them again, would you? Do you mind?
Yeah, no. So Nyana, I'm guessing the spelling on this, Nyanna, Nyana, and then Desiree, and then Claire, Katie, Michael, and Matt.
Okay.
So, and I would say, there was a Julie too, but I didn't ever really have a conversation with her. I just met her at one point. And she was from like the Netherlands or something. Julie was.
Okay.
So yeah. But Nyana was probably 30 to 33.
Echo, stop. Sorry.
That's okay. Desiree was nearing 40. Claire was probably around 40.
Okay.
Katie was 30-ish. Michael, I don't know really how old he was. And then Matt, he's been on the video multiple times, on the streamers video, Osa Matt. So, yeah.
So I asked you before, do you have plans to be a streamer yourself? I mean, do you have auditing plans, or are you sticking with the code writing, which we need more probably?
I am definitely more of a behind the scenes person, but Auditing Scientology has been out there a lot, and I told him, just let me know whenever you're gonna head out to the org, and I'll try to come out with him. If I don't really have like the ability to stream right now, so I have an old phone and its battery is less than ideal. So I would have to get that upgraded before I started. So I mean, there's a lot of little pieces, but I told Auditing Scientology that anytime he wants to go out, I'll go out with him. So yeah.
Good, I'll watch for sure. You have been so constant for me. Really, you've been a tremendous help with research and just with just being a constant when I really didn't have anybody else around, who knew what they were doing. And you were an inside source for me in the beginning, which was wonderful. It helped in a lot of ways. And now you've created this amazing website that I mean, people are using it all the time. I used it on Friday to stream hop with Nonabots live, and it was so fun. It's really fun to just go on there like on a weekend night and just go from streamer to streamer, and just for each person say, like what they're doing right, and like really tell them how great they are, and then move on to the next person. And they freaking love it. It just takes a little bit of encouragement usually for people.
Yeah. I'm blown away by how many people are using it. Like it just, so the first week when I was testing it and I sent it out to a couple of testers, well, actually Fluffer sent it out to a couple of testers for me. And then I sent it to like 2 or 3 people. The first week I was testing it, there was like, 10 hits on the site, ish. And then the day we went live and like Fluffer posted about it, I think we got like maybe 80-ish people hit it. And I was like, whoa, 80 people. And then Aaron, which, oh my goodness, I was out the night that he streamed, and Auditing Scientology emailed me and was like, Aaron's talking about your site. And I was like, what? And I like pull it up on my phone, and I was like, oh my gosh. And by the next day I had almost 2,000 hits on the site.
Wow.
And I think it's over 4,000 now. So,
nice. Yeah. People are using it a lot.
So honestly, I did it as as a passion project, almost for myself, because it was like I was missing so many. I was missing so many people in my, and I wanted to be able to subscribe to everyone that Fluffer had in that list. And it was just, it was like keeping up with it. And I knew keeping up that giant post was going to get more and more difficult.
Yeah.
And so, so I reached out to Fluffer Squirrel and I was like, hey,
can you help?
I have an idea.
Yeah. That's so amazing. You had to write code for it, right?
Yeah. I actually, I wrote the back end, the way that it pulls the data from YouTube. Yeah, like I wrote that. It is in WordPress. I mean, it's a WordPress site, which is what I'm familiar with. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't find anything out there that did something like that. So I mean, it's not like it's super difficult. It's just, you had to come up with the idea of like, how am I gonna do this?
Yes, and you did it. Thank you so much on behalf of all the streamers. Really, it's really made a huge difference. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm blown away. I'm blown away by how many people are using it. So
have they reached out to you? Have a lot of people reached out and to thank you and be appreciative?
Yeah, most people reach out to Fluffer because they're very forward facing, which I love, because
that's okay with you. Yes,
I am very much a behind the scenes person.
You're the spy. You're a spy.
But so a lot of people have reached out to Fluffer and keep reaching out and telling them how that they're how wonderful their list is, because I'm not keeping the list up. The list is not mine. I do not edit the list. I do not add or subtract. That is all Fluffer Squirrel. Like they completely, that is their heart is in that list. So
yes. Here it is in all its glory. Yeah, you guys check it out if you haven't yet. sptv.space. I think everyone has. I mean, everybody's talking about it. There's a question, I guess. So Midwest Night Watchers wants to know if they keep their real names when they join Scientology. How would you know?
Yeah, I couldn't answer that. I mean, I'm assuming yes. I don't think Aaron changed his name, but yeah, I don't know. Congrats. Oh, thank you so much, Hollywood.
It seems like a very small. Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, it seems like Scientology is so small, they must keep their same names, with the exception of all the marriages and divorces, because still, for some reason, the women in Scientology keep changing their names. But it's such a small group that they all recognize each other's names like decades later.
Yeah. I love this community. I mean, I've made friends that we don't live anywhere near each other, but we have contact with each other. And I got to meet you. I mean, this community is incredible. I was telling my husband today, I was like, I'm going to be on a live stream with this community. This is the community that I've been watching from this side of the screen for years. And with Aaron and all them, and then with all the streamers coming on, I think I started watching all of the streaming probably toward like Christmassy time. But like,
wow,
I never, well, when I started watching all the streamers was around Christmas, when they were doing the holiday stuff in LA. But yeah, I've been watching Aaron since, I don't know, like 2016 maybe.
Wow,
somewhere around there. But yeah, I can't believe that like I've become part of this community enough that somebody wants to talk to me.
Oh, come on. You're like I debated about whether to ask. The only reason, so you were one of the first people that came to mind because I know your story and I've known it, and I know you haven't come out and told it yet. So you've been on my mind when we were talking about this never ends telling stories. But the one thing I was thinking is, I bet we could use her again. Do I really want to expose her face? Like maybe pay for a trip to Chicago and have you go in? Because you have such a perfect Scientology face. You really do. That's
Hey,
not
you know, I
mean.
mean, if it, I go in and talk to people. I mean, that it does not bother me to go in and talk to, you know, to somebody or have a conversation with somebody. It doesn't, I don't get scared about that. I don't have a nervousness of, oh, what am I, going to say? Having a conversation with somebody in person is easy for me to do. This is nerve-wracking being on a live stream, but
Yeah, is
have
it? Are you? Yeah, right, right. They're going to open a credit card in your name now. Well, thanks for everything. Thanks for coming on and telling the story. I want to have you on again if it's not too nerve-wracking, because you have stories about each one of the people you met there. And I think it's important. You know, I get very angry with Scientology. They definitely, this is how they make enemies. Like when she snatched that thing out of your hand and they told you you were an antagonistic person, meaning basically now you're a piece of shit on the bottom of my shoe, you know? Whereas before you were raw meat. I had a use for you, right? And that's how they make enemies. That's how they keep on making enemies. And so they still don't get it at all. They could, like any other church, would have been courteous to you and let you stay for the event and then talk to you, maybe step aside and say, I think you may be, you might be operating under summation. Can I clear anything up for you? You know, that kind of thing. But of course, they're not a regular church. They're a cult. If you're not with them, you're against them. End of story. So good for you for you put your foot down at that event and you said, I'm staying. I love that. Because they kept saying, leave, leave, leave. And you're like, nope, I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. But I think, but to come back to my original point, I think it's really important that we humanize people, that we humanize them. So you telling stories about the people you met while you were spying there would be, and I say that facetiously, I know you weren't spying, but that will humanize Scientologists in a way that they obviously can't do themselves. They just have lost the ability to do that on their own.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
So if you don't mind coming back, I want you to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, if I, ever see, if I ever find out Desiree or Niana or any of them have left, I'd love to have a conversation with them. I'd love to be there to support them.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, I liked all of them. I liked all of them. I mean, yeah, it was only those last few encounters that I had that were antagonistic.
Yeah, right, right. Well, thanks for all your work, secret and public. We really appreciate you. And let me say, thank you so much for mods for coming out as always. Michael, R.E. Jellin, Midwest Night Watchers, thanks again, guys. Thanks for people coming out and listening to our story. And Allie, I'll see you next time. You did great.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Everyone.
I'm going to remove you. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. I'm doing my Islam interview with the Islam expert. And then I'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, for another story about by a Neverin about an experience with Scientology. Thanks for coming by, guys. Bye-bye.